Welcome to a deck profile. This is my first ever real life deck, and I'm going to do a deck profile, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me just pause and separate everything, and then, yeah. Go for the shaky hands, but I'll start with the monsters. First up, we have 3 of the Lulus. Of course it's that 3. I mean, it's your main searcher. You use it, you send the spells to the graveyard, and then you use it on a trap, or if you send a spell to the graveyard, or send a spell to the graveyard, send a trap. You get a monster search straight up, or you can start a monster, then search for a spell trap. That's also fine. But this is your main playmaker, provided you have a virtual wild card on the field, which is how the archetype works. But yeah, I have 3 copies of Lulu. Let's move that to the side for now. We also have got 3 copies of Juju. He's essentially an end phase monster reborn, as well as having the generic virtual world effect of targeting a virtual world, sending another virtual world card to the graveyard in order to summon itself. So yes, the archetype pretty much hates Ash. So this would probably be the Ash fate. This, or there's one level 6 we'll get to later, because you don't want to get Ash on Lulu basically in your hand, unless you don't have another choice. So move that to the side. Next up, we have got Virtual World Nyanya. Now this one doesn't have the special summon effect. However, the way this one works, you want to normal summon it first time you have it, or send it to graveyard via a virtual world effect. Say via a Gigi effect targeting Chuche, which we'll get to later. Because it's either you normal summon it and then summon another virtual world and go into an Xyz or Synchro, or alternatively, when it's in the graveyard, if you summon any level 3s, say Gigi or Lulu, you then get to special summon it from the graveyard as a tuner. So let's say, I don't know, it's in the graveyard, you summon Gigi, now you've got this. Oh, look at that, Synchro 6 into Charge Warrior, Coral Dragon, the Virtual World Synchro 6. You know, you've got that, or if you get Lulu, you can then special summon it back, Xyz summon into the Virtual World Xyz 3, rank 3, the red one, I forget its name, but I have it in the extract, Jar Jar. Or you can go into Totem Bird or Gossip Shadow if you want. So, you know, there is that. Also, apologies if there's a police thing in the background. That police car just passed by me and I don't have a soundproof room or anything at the moment. Anyway, that's Nyan Nyan. Move that to the side with the other cards. Next, we've got 3 copies of Lily, which we have because, you know, it's Ash bait, but also it's a generic level 6 who can send a virtual world to the graveyard. So, let's say you used Kowloon, you send your Chuche to the graveyard. These are cards there, by the way. That's why I've got all the cards. But yeah. So if you say you send use Kowloon, get Chuche, then activate this, send Nyan to the graveyard. You can then search your. You then send your searching spell to the graveyard, which is also the negate on the field by banishing virtual world. But we'll get to that card later. Keenlong, you've essentially got Ash bait, or it can set up the graveyard. It's basically Force Burial for whichever card you didn't use to get its effect off, whether it be the spell or the trap or the monster. Essentially, it gets the 3rd card type to the graveyard as well. Now we've got Laula, which is essentially its effect is you send the generic virtual world card, but its effect is you special summon. Is it any virtual world? Yeah, special summon any virtual world from the graveyard. So it's essentially got a monster reborn, so you can say reborn the Lily. Then if you do that, you can then go into Ptolemy or Utopia Beyond. And I think those are the only rank 6s I have at the moment. I only have 2 rank 6s, maybe 3, I can't remember. I can check my exact later when we get to that. But yeah, the reason I run it at 2 is because it's at 2 at Master. My brain just sort of mentally kept that in mind when making the deck, so it's just at 2. Even though it's a monster reborn, if anything I should have done it in reverse order. It was at 2 at Master, but it's not anymore I don't think. But yeah, anyway, let's move that to the side and move my deck box, because we're now moving on to the hand traps, which are 2 Ash, because, you know, I mean, it's Ash, it's a staple, and 2 copies of Veiler, because, I mean, honestly, I just fancied adding Veiler to the deck, so, you know, Veiler's monster negate on your opponent's turn, so it's Veiler. Yeah, anyway, but Ash is just there, because Ash can, like, stop an opponent's draw a search, or I guess Rhinoheart or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I've not played TCG yet, and I've not really I don't think I even have a local, so I've not really played in real life. I've mostly played Master and Duel Links. But anyway, on to the spells. First we have 3 copies of Kowloon, because this essentially lets you set any of the gates to the back row face up. So Chuche, Keenlong, Xianwu I think it's called. We'll get to that later. But yeah, so this is essentially your main. This is also one you don't want to get ashed. So this and Lulu are the 2 you don't want to get ashed. So you would activate it, get your Chuche to the field. You can then use Lulu on the Chuche. So I'll just give you an example. Activate this, get this onto the field. Lulu effect, target Chuche, send a Keylong to the graveyard, which we'll talk about later. Then you can search another monster, say Yiji. Basically, that's one of the classic combos of the deck. So yeah. Anyway, that's my triple Kowloon, because it's pretty much, you do want to see it in your opening hand. So yeah, and then we have 3 copies of Keenlong, which is the only other spell gate at the moment, which is essentially, whilst it's on the field, you can banish a virtual world from the graveyard. Say Nyan Nyan, I forgot to mention its other effect. Nyan Nyan can then target one of your banished cards, put it back into the deck, or exit deck if it's an exit deck card, but it puts it back into the deck via the effect name. So, you can banish a Nyan Nyan to negate a monster's effect, or if it's in the graveyard, banish it, search a virtual wild card, say Lulu, Jiju, Nyan Nyan, or Lily, because I'm pretty sure it's any monster, and then discard a card from your hand. So you can search a Nyan Nyan, discard Nyan Nyan, then you set up your graveyard as a worst case scenario if you have a Nyan Nyan still in your deck by that point. Although you would, because it's the start of the duel, normally you're sending this to the graveyard. But yeah, so 3 copies of Keenlong, which is the spell. Also, I hope I'm not talking too fast, because if I am, I apologise. I'm just sort of very, very excited. Anyway, next up we have 2 copies of Emergency Teleport. This is why Nyan Nyan is a good card, because I believe Nyan Nyan is psychic, yep. So you can special summon either Nyan Nyan or Lulu from the deck, and then it's just a free special summon from the deck, in case you don't get them in your hand. It's just helpful to start your plays up. It's just, yeah. Is Emergency Teleport only? I'll have to look that up. If not, then I'll got an Upstart Goblin that can pad it. I'll look up the ban list against it. I don't think Emergency Teleport's on the ban list, but it's fine. Plus, also, you can see it's got gold border, because that's just how it came online, but it actually looks cooler like this, because it sort of fits the card, because this thing is sort of yellowy, so it fits the damn card. But yeah, anyway. So my E-Teleport, move that to the side, and next up we have 2 copies of Twin Twisters, because you can discard Nyan Nyan, you can discard Keenlong, you can discard Chuche, you can discard Xianwu. You've got a lot of graveyard effects, so Twin Twisters is basically just back row hate, because... Okay, anyway. Twin Twisters is just back row hate because, it works in the deck. And it helps continue setup whilst getting rid of some opponent's cards. I'm just going to put that underneath Emergency Teleport. I think I'm going to start putting these back together, like so I can put the spells like that. Anyway. Next up, we've got, I think, 1 copy, or 2 copies of Foolish Burial Goods, because you want to, this is just so you can, I like sending Keenlong to the graveyard whenever I can, so this essentially sends Keenlong to the graveyard to search your Lulu, so then you can activate your Lulu's effect. Say you've activated the gate Kowloon, if not, then say you've activated the virtual world, or if you've normal summoned the virtual world, you don't get Lulu, you get a free search. It can pretty much be started even if you didn't get Kowloon in your starting hand, or if you didn't get Lulu in your starting hand, let's say. It can pretty much be started like this. Also, Kowloon has other effects I forgot to mention based on how many gates you have. So let's say you have 2 gates, 2+ gates, your virtual world gain a bit of attack. 3 gates you mill, but you don't want to do that because you might mill something like Feather Duster, which I have, or stuff like that. And then 4 gates, which basically if you have a full back row of gates after you've activated it, you can then special summon different named extra deck cards from your extra deck, which you'd normally only be using to summon Shen Shen and the level 6 Synchro. You wouldn't summon the Xyz cards that way. Except maybe the level 3 if you want to go into Zeus with only 2 materials. If I have the thing, which I don't think I do, so it would only have 1 material, so never mind. But yeah, we've got Foolish Burial Goods. And now I'll show you the one of staples, which is a Feather Duster, back row removal, Raigeki, because it's monster destruction. Upstart, it was supposed to pad out, but then I ended up getting a second Ash anyway, so Upstart for 3+1, I guess. And Cooled Ride, because it's at limit 1, otherwise I would have got 2. but here's Cooled By. These are, Upstart, Free Draw, Feather Duster, Back Rotate, Raigeki, Monster Destruction, and then Cooled By because, Cooled By is a good card, and I really wish it came back to 2, but oh well, it's fine. We'll just put these together, and we'll move on to the traps before moving on to the extra deck, which reminds me I should probably move the extra deck to that side so that I don't get it all confused. Onto the traps. So you've got 3 copies of Chuche Pop, as it's called, because you shuffle 2 of your banished cards into the deck, to target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it. And if it's in the graveyard, it can increase or decrease your monster's level by 3. So essentially, you've got level modulation in the graveyard as a banish effect, and you've got banish shuffling, and it can also shuffle other copies of itself. So you normally want to make sure you have 1 whilst there's 1 banished, just so you can put a couple, so you can loop it around basically. But it's a decent trap basically. Anyway, next one, which is why it sort of, you would think it would contradict with Nyan Nyan, but thanks to Shen Shen, who just banishes 2 cards with different attributes to activate its effect. Essentially, you can get a banish card back and still without it being a virtual world with Nyan Nyan, so it doesn't contradict Nyan Nyan. Anyway, here's Virtual World Gate Janru. Its graveyard effect is a reborn and then discard a card, so you can special summon a Lulu from the graveyard, then discard, say, a Nyan Nyan. And then you can also on the field, if you have another gate, you can turn your opponent's monster's defense position, which means during the battle phase, let's say they attack, you then activate it, turn it to defense. Boom! No more attacking me, thank you very much. Anyway, that's Jianwu. And last but not least from the main deck is Infinite Impermanence. Yep. Basically imperm, because first off, if you're going second, just pop this bad boy down and it's negated that monster effect. Or you can set it, and then next turn, if you're going first, imperm column. There we go. And that's the main deck complete. Okay. I hope I am very clear, and there's no shuffling noises. There's probably 2 police cards that passed by that you heard. Hopefully it's not too fidgety, not too breathy, not too all that shit, but we'll see. Alright, onto the extra deck. We'll start with the Virtual World extra deck cards, with the Xyz. Because I'm going to order this Xyz and then Synchros. So let me just move that out the way. And that I am going to show you. First off is a Virtual World Tiger Fufu. He's the new Virtual World Xyz. I know I've probably not been close as cards as I should be, but basically his effect is, if you have 2 gates, you can attack directly. If you have 4 gates, detach one material, target 1 card you control and 1 card your opponent controls, negate their effects, and negate both their effects until the end of the turn. And then, yeah, that's Fufu. Then I got 2 copies of Jar Jar, who's essentially there for Zeus fodder. Because he can detach 1 material, cannot be destroyed by battle, and also if you have 2 different monsters with different attributes, I believe, or is it same type and attribute, then you can banish the card at battled, which has its uses, yeah, and then obviously we've got the Zeus, because, any deck with an Xyz monster with 2 materials is going to make Zeus. It's a free board wipe, and it doesn't destroy, it sends to the graveyard, so pretty sure it would affect something like towers and that sort of stuff, because it sends to the graveyard, it doesn't target, it doesn't destroy, it just sends the field to the graveyard, except for itself, of course. Obviously, with Bestials, that's a bit of an issue, but, I've not got many light monsters in the main... I don't have any light monsters in the main deck besides Effect Veiler, so they're going to have a hard time Bestialing me, unless they've got my extra deck monsters to the graveyard, but we'll get to that soon. Next up, we have number 39, Utopia, except it's not Utopia. Do you want to know why? Because it's Utopia Beyond. He's now better. This is essentially an Xyz level 6, who's there because, you turn your opponent's attack to 0, so you can attack them, do damage, next phase, go to Zeus, boom, I've just damaged you for 3,000. Police car, third police car. I've just damaged you for 3,000. Now, I'm going to make it so that I've Zeus and your board's gone. So you're now on 5,000 life points, no board. Hope you haven't spent your hand, and hopefully you don't have a graveyard effect, which in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is quite common, but you know what, that's number 39, Utopia Beyond. Next up we have Ptolemy M7, who's just a bounce, and then also Zeus fodder, and it's my only other rank 6, so yeah, that's M7. I really did focus on the Synchronic Sea stuff then, I guess. Next up we have Totem Bird, who's basically, so you want to use your Nyan Nyan and Lulu as material maybe, because it's basically one spell tap negate, although it loses its attack, or if they don't have spell tap and they've got low attack monster, attack Zeus. And then of course, as I mentioned earlier, we have number 75, Bamboozling Gusset Shadow. This guy is essentially a monster negate, if I remember correctly. Just actually going to read it real quick. Once monster activates its effect, you can attach 2 materials. It then becomes, oh no, it's not negate, it just becomes we both get to draw 1. Thank you very much. And also it can attach itself to a material. So Zeus. You know, let's say it's a 2 material Zeus, and I've summoned this with 2 materials. Effect. Attached to Zeus with its materials. So you've now got a 3 material Zeus, or 4 depending on if it had 1 material or not. Now we're going to the synchros. 2 copies of Shen Shen. Essentially it's a synchro 9 effect whilst on field. Cards sent from the field to the graveyard get banished instead. And also, if it's in the graveyard, banish 2 monsters I believe with different attributes. And if you do, special summon self. So it's got its own reborn effect essentially by banishing cards from the graveyard, and it's also banishes cards from the field if they leave the field, so it's got that use as well. It's like a floodgate, I suppose. We have 1 copy of a Virtual World Beast Juju, who's essentially, if I remember correctly, he's banished a card. He's got a negate, and he's got a Can be destroyed by battle card effect whilst you have 2 or more monsters in your graveyard with the same original type and attribute, but different names. So say Nyan Nyan and a Lulu. No, Nyan Nyan's Nyan Nyan is one. So Nyan Nyan and a Lulu, and he also has an effect where you can it's target 1 card on the field, send it to the graveyard, but you need to banish 2 monsters from your graveyard with the same original type and attribute. Yeah, that's it. So it's basically a banish, I guess. And then obviously we've got Trishula. Do I need to explain it? No, I don't think so. And if you're new to Yu-Gi-Oh, look up Trishula Dragon of the Ice Barrier. It's essentially banish 1 card from your opponent's graveyard, hand, and field. So it's banish 3 from 3 different locations. And then, of course, my other Synchro 9 that's not a virtual world is Koryangondrax. 1 second. Koryangondrax. Christian Koryangondrax. His effect is basically when he's summoned, you get to banish 3 cards from the opponent's field, basically. If I remember correctly. Yeah. 3 cards from the opponent's field if you summon it with 3 monsters, because you would do. Basically, 2 or more tuners and 1 non-tuner. So, say you've got your Lulu, your Virtual Special Summon back, and your Gigi, or you've got your Lily, and you turn it into level 3 with Chuche in the graveyard. Then you can make this guy banish 3, and I believe when he leaves the field, you can special summon a banished monster if he's destroyed by battle or card effect. Yes, he can. So, he's also got a floating effect if he's destroyed by battle or card effect, so that's good. We wouldn't have a floating effect on Zeus, but that's if Zeus was activated. And we'll do our last Synchro 6s together since they're right at the end. Got Coral Dragon, the tuner Synchro 6, which means you can go into a Shen Shen with it and a Gigi. And also when you use a Synchro material, you can draw a card. Also he has a discard effect, you discard 1 card to pop an opponent's card. And you've got Charge Warrior, who's essentially a +1, who's also got the gold because he came like that, but yeah. And that's the entire deck. So this is the deck profile complete, basically. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave that off there. Thank you for watching, and let me just rearrange my deck so you can have like a visual. This is the extra deck. Let me just, it's another police car, brilliant. There's like 4 police cars coming around because I guess there must be a police station up there or something. Anyway, let me just, So yeah, this is pretty much just my entire deck profile. Thank you for watching. I am going to make myself lunch now, and I will see you if you decide to watch more of my content. If you don't, perfectly fine. I mean, it's very basic, it's very me, I guess, except I'm not very good at making stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna take this. I can't. It's annoying doing this one-handed, but thank you for watching, and I will see you all in. Come on, get in. Yes, awesome. I will see you all in the next one. Thank you. I just want to get this in the box before I finish off. One sec. Yeah. No, so good. But there we go. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. And as you can see, yes, I did like the Egyptian God sleeve box, which has gone a bit faded already, and matte, as you can see. Yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.